Well, it's not digital gold either. Make a picture of a hamburger and then say I have digital food.
Google has a lot of value, Twitter has a lot of value, but it doesn't mean that because it's virtual, it has no value. Bitcoin is not just for sending and receiving. Bitcoin is an entire industry.
그리고 지금 피터시프가 또 뭘 이야기하냐면 비트코인은 가치가 없다. 왜냐하면 물리적 속성이 없기 때문에 가치가 없다라고 이야기합니다.
I saw you
I have an iPhone, yeah, right here.
You don't use Android, right?
No, I have an iPhone.
And you use the internet, obviously. So you use X, Google, Facebook, etc. Google is virtual, right?
Excuse me?
The internet is virtual. The internet has like nothing physical.
Yes, yes it is. Yeah.
So when you use X is completely virtual. There's nothing physical about it. But X is worth a lot of money, right? It has value. It's a utility tool, right? So internet has value, right?
Yes. Yeah, there's no disputing that.
So Bitcoin itself actually doesn't exist. I don't know if everybody in the audience knows about this or not. There's no Bitcoin on the blockchain, physically or virtually. All there is records of transactions on the blockchain.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
So when people say, I send you one Bitcoin, they are not sending one Bitcoin. They just want another transaction on the ledger said, I send you one.
Right, nothing actually moves.
Nothing
right?
actually
There's
moves.
nothing that actually goes anywhere. I get that.
And the way we calculate, the way we figure out this address has one Bitcoin is actually we go through all the transactions on the blockchain. We look at all the inputs and all the receiving and all the sending out. And then if there's a difference positive, then this address has one blockchain, one Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin actually doesn't exist anywhere. But it doesn't mean that because it's virtual, it has no value, right? So Google has a lot of value, Twitter has a lot of value, and when there's many virtual things that has value. So an item's value is not associated with its physical properties. Even with gold, right? The industrial, like the computer chips, which use gold. The value of gold is much less than the value of the gold we give because it's a rare commodity, precious metal, right?
Yeah, well, first of all, just because something is intangible, right? Yeah. I mean, there are tangible assets, there's intangible assets. I'm not saying that something has to be tangible to have value. I mean, all companies, your company probably has goodwill that, that has value, but it's not something you can touch or feel. It's an intangible asset. And what makes Bitcoin worthless, as far as I'm concerned, is not the fact that I can't touch it or taste it or smell it. I guess I recognize that things can be intangible and have value. It's that you can't do anything with it. It doesn't have a utility beyond the fact that, yes, I can transfer it to you and you can transfer it to somebody else. And the whole methodology, the way it works, yes, it's very smart. The way the whole system is set up, I understand that.
여기서 피터시프가 말하는 이제 물리적 속성이라는 것은 비트코인도 에너지를 써서 만들기 때문에 물리학의 법칙을 적용을 받습니다만 실질적으로 질량을 갖고 있거나 우리가 눈으로 보거나 만질 수가 없기 때문에 비트코인은 가치 없는 것이라고 피터시프는 그동안 주장해 왔는데 여기에 대해서 창펑자오가 뭐라고 이야기하냐면 자, 아이폰을 사용하고 인터넷을 사용한다. 구글이나 페이스북을 사용한다. 근데 인터넷은 물리적인 게 아무것도 없는데 인터넷은 그럼 가치가 있느냐? 자, 그러면 트위터 X를 사용한대. X는 완전히 가상이고 X는 유틸리티 도구일 뿐이다. 물리성은 없지만 그러면 X라는 기업의 가치가 있느냐 없느냐라고 묻습니다. 그러니까 어떤 것이나 이런 것의 가치는 그 물리적으로 만질 수 있고 볼 수 있느냐 여부에 따르지 않고 그것이 얼마나 유용한가에 따라서 가치가 결정된다라고 이야기를 하면서 인터넷과 인터넷 기반으로 하고 있는 구글이나 메타나 X 같은 기업을 예를 들어서 설명을 합니다. 여기서 피터시프가 또 다른 반박을 하는데 금은 유용성이 있다라고 이야기합니다. 산업적으로도 쓸 수 있고 기본적으로 정부도 금을 어떤 준비 자산으로 비축하고 있기 때문에 금에 대한 수요는 산업적으로도 있고 은행이라든지 국가들이 금을 소유하려는 기본적인 수요가 있기 때문에 금은 비트코인에 비해서 훨씬 실질적인 수요에 기반하고 있다라고 주장을 합니다.
And companies need gold. Now, because gold is scarce, there's not just an abundant supply of gold. Because it's very valuable, but there's not a lot of it, then it's going to have a high price just by supply and demand. But even if people say, well, the real price, it's not, the investment price is $4,000 an ounce, but maybe it's only worth some lesser amount, I don't know. But the reason for the price, right, price is always going to be determined by supply and demand. One of the functions that gold serves for central banks is it backs up their currency. It's a monetary reserve asset, and that's also a use for gold, and that helps determine the price of gold because you have central banks that need it, and they have to bid into the market to obtain it. But because gold doesn't decay, right, it doesn't lose any value over time. When I own gold, I don't just own what I can do with it today, but I own what somebody else can do with it in 1,000 years, in 10,000 years, because gold doesn't go away. I mean, the gold that was mined 10,000 years ago, it's still here. I mean, you know, it doesn't go anywhere, and it's no different than it was in the past. And so gold's price today represents the present value of all of the uses from now until the end of time.
Sure.
You don't have that with other commodities that have a shelf life, that decay, they rot,
Okay.
right? Gold is unique in the fact that it never goes anywhere. And that's what makes it a store of value too, because when I own gold, I am storing the use of that gold from now until the end of time. Even if I don't use it myself, if I just hold on to it, somebody somewhere in the future is going to use that gold. But there are people that also need to use it today in the present.
So you said a lot of things there. There's actually a lot of things that are very interesting, and we're so close to get you over.
I wouldn't be so sure about that.
So first of all, on the gold, right? You said that the gold is always there. How much gold is there in the world?
Well, I don't have to know exactly, but I know it's pretty scarce, and the supply grows relatively slowly.
We don't know, right? We don't know.
Well, no, I don't know how much is in the Earth's crust.
Right. So tomorrow we can find another. No, China can find another big mine, and then there will be more gold. And now there's synthetic diamonds. Later on, we may be advanced enough in chemistry to be able to. That's a holy grail. Everyone wants to do synthetic gold.
근데 이것 역시 피터시프의 주장은 이미 창펑자오뿐만 아니라 이미 창펑자오 이 자리에서 반박하지 않더라도 이 피터시프의 주장은 현실과 굉장히 동떨어진 주장입니다. 이미 미국 정부가 비트코인을 30만 개를 넘게 보유하고 있고 각국 정부가 비트코인을 전략적으로 비축하려는 움직임을 확대하고 있습니다. 그리고 스트레티지 같은 기업이 비트코인을 전략적으로 비축하고 있습니다. 그리고 또 새로 나온 기사인데요. 미국의 상품선물거래위원회 CFTC가 파생 상품의 담보로 비트코인과 이더리움과 달러 스테이블 코인을 허용할 예정이라는 기사가 나왔습니다. 그러니까 이제 금융기관에서 비트코인을 가지고 담보로 잡고 돈을 빌려줄 수 있다는 거죠. 그래서 이 피터시프가 여기서 이야기하는 비트코인은 아무 쓸모가 없다는 주장은 이미 현실적으로 반박하기 매우 쉬운 그런 주장입니다.
No, but the gold's utility in commercial use is not where the value is from. Gold's value derives from is a rare commodity. Right? And Bitcoin has a lot of utility. Bitcoin is not just for sending and receiving. Bitcoin is an entire industry. It's a new technology for money.
No, it's not a new technology for money because it's not being used as money, and it's not really money because it's not a commodity. It's not money by definition is going to be the most liquid commodity. And Bitcoin doesn't really qualify, even though the government might classify it as a commodity.
So there's different definitions for labels. There's a label for money, and there's a label for value. Right? Bitcoin is a $3 trillion asset, and it's still growing. Right?
Well, so Bitcoin has a price. I mean, there's no arguing that it has a price, but it has a price because people want to buy it, and because a lot of people who own it don't want to sell it because they think the price is going to keep going up. So, but that doesn't mean that it has any underlying value just because it has a price, just because people are willing to speculate in it. But that's what Bitcoin is being used as. It's not being used as money. It's being used as a speculative digital asset. I mean, to me, people collect Bitcoin,
so I think
and they collect Bitcoin because they think the collection is going to be more valuable in the future.
So I think you have a very narrow definition of money, which is what you believe and what governments believe, right? So for example, if we ask the audience here, how many people believe Bitcoin is money? Well, let's see, right? So, but this is an unfair crowd.
Right, but
this is an unfair crowd. But the point is, though, many people do recognize Bitcoin as money.
But that's like an exchange rate. But I'm talking about merchandise, people that are selling goods and services, which would include, labor, nobody quotes wages or prices in a fixed quantity of Bitcoin, right? You're not going to. It doesn't happen anywhere. To the extent that even somebody was to get paid in Bitcoin, they would have a salary in dollars or in euros, and then when it came time to get paid, they would try to figure out how many Bitcoin they need to equal that number of dollars or number of euros. It's not a unit of account like money, and it's not being used as a medium of exchange. But people, most of the Bitcoin, it's like traded on Binance, and people gamble with it. They buy it and they sell it, they day trade it or they hodl it, but they're not using it. I mean, as a medium of exchange. It's not a unit of account, and it can't be a store of value because you can't store what you don't have.
I'm not arguing whether Bitcoin is money or not. We're really
You just said it was money.
Then we would be arguing about the definition of money, how we define that level. But the more important part is whether Bitcoin is valuable, right? So I think whether it has value. And that's the core definition. Well, that's the core debate. Whereas I think many people in this room obviously recognize Bitcoin has value. Bitcoin has, and the Bitcoin value, part of it is come from speculation on Binance, on other exchange, but a large part of it comes from the utility value of it. The fact that I can use it, I can transport it. I move to different countries all the time, right? So with this piece of gold, it's not easy for me to take it across different countries. Mm-hmm. Whereas it's a good store of value, which is true. But Bitcoin has risen in value, not just a store of value. It has actually gone up in value over the last 15 years.
Yeah. Well, first of all, tokenized gold solves that problem because you can take the tokenized gold with you. But
the tokenized gold, I have to trust a third party.
All right, well, just find a trusted third party. I mean,
which I could, but Bitcoin, I don't have to do that. That's utility.
Well, but then you have to trust something more. You have to trust that.
I trust the technology.
People still want Bitcoin. Yes. You mentioned that there's there's 21 million Bitcoin.
피터시프는 여기서 또 이런 주장을 합니다. 비트코인으로 지금까지 창펑자오 비트코인으로 돈을 번 사람이 엄청나게 많다는 이야기를 하니까 피터시프가 뭐라고 이야기하냐면 지금까지 비트코인으로 돈을 번 사람들은 지금 현재 최근에 비트코인을 살아서 돈을 잃은 사람의 돈이 그쪽으로 이전했기 때문에 돈을 번 것이지 비트코인의 가치는 더 이상 사줄 사람이 없을 때 바로 가치가 폭락해서 영원히 될 것이다 이런 주장을 합니다.
But Bitcoin is irrelevant for that. Bitcoin's value is determined solely by the number of people who want to buy it versus the people who want to sell it. Because there's no user for it. Like like with gold, there is real demand. There are people who need to buy gold and will always buy gold. And if the price of gold goes down, they're going to buy more. But in Bitcoin, nobody needs it, but people want it. But they want it because they think the price is going to go up. But the minute they stop believing the price is going to go up, then there's no reason to have it.
Let's talk about the future a little bit more. The future generation, the younger kids.
Yes.
Do you think they will like Bitcoin more or gold more?
Well, they're going to like gold more because their friends will have lost a lot of money in Bitcoin. And there's one really good thing about young people.
How about your son?
But he's already sold his. But the good thing about losing a lot of money in Bitcoin when you're young, and is that when you're young and you lose your money, you have a whole lifetime to earn it back, and you have a lifetime to benefit from the experience of losing that money. So the good news for all the young people that are going to get wiped out in Bitcoin is that it will prevent you from losing more money in the future, right? Because when you're young, you don't have a lot of money to lose. But as you get older and you accumulate more, that's when it's more important not to lose your money. So this is a valuable lesson.
So Bitcoin went from no value in 2010 to 50 cents for the first Visa transaction to now 100,000, well, 90,000 right now.
Yeah.
How many people lost money on Bitcoin? How many people made money on Bitcoin?
Yeah. Well, how many of the people who have their hands up have actually sold their Bitcoin and realized those gains?
A few.
Not that many. But look,
again, this is a different crowd, right? Obviously. Yeah,
but there's no disputing that the people who bought Bitcoin back then have made a tremendous amount of money. I mean, I know a lot of these people who have made hundreds of millions, billions.
So you know them?
Yes, a lot of them are my neighbors, but the reason they can afford to live in my neighborhood is because they sold a lot of Bitcoin. That's how come they can afford it. But the money that they made.
A lot of people made a lot of money on Bitcoin that you know.
Yes, they got in early.
Okay.
The people who bought it over the last couple of years haven't made any money. These are the people who are losing the money that enabled the early buyers to make money. The people who are making money are cashing out. All Bitcoin does is enable a transfer of wealth from the people who buy Bitcoin to the people who sell it, right? When Bitcoin is created, there's no real wealth. We have like 20 million Bitcoin now that we didn't have 15 years ago. But we're no better off because those Bitcoin exist. They don't actually do anything. But what has happened is some people have been enriched at the expense of other people. Now, the people who have lost a lot of money in Bitcoin don't even realize they've lost it yet because they still have the Bitcoin, and the Bitcoin still has a $93,000 price or whatever it is right now. And so they don't realize they've lost the money. But if they try to get out, that's when they're going to realize it's lost. Because if a large percentage of people who own Bitcoin want to get out of it, there is no market for it. The market will implode.
그리고 최근 4년 동안의 비트코인의 가격 사이클을 예를 들어서 최근 4년 동안 비트코인과 금의 가격을 비교해 보면 금이 비트코인보다 40% 더 올랐다라는 주장을 펼치는데 창펑자오는 2010년과 비교해 봤을 때 비트코인의 가격은 금보다 월등히 많이 올랐다는 주장을 합니다. 여기에 대해서 피터시프는 만약에 비트코인이 그렇게 디지털 골드고 금보다 더 뛰어난 속성을 지닌 그런 자산이라고 이야기하면 특정 시점을 찍어서 기간을 비교해도 금보다 더 우월한 성적을 나타내야 된다는 주장을 펼칩니다. 그러니까 2021년을 찍어서 지금까지 비교해도 비트코인이 금보다 더 가격이 올랐어야 되는데 2021년부터 지금까지 4년을 찍어서 보면 금 가격이 더 많이 올랐다는 이야기를 하죠.
Look, Bitcoin today is 40% lower priced in gold than it was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So over the past 4 years, since Bitcoin peaked,
Is that true?
Yes.
I'm not sure if that's true.
Yeah, when Bitcoin was 69,000 4 years ago, it bought 37.2 ounces of gold. Today, and I just checked before, it buys 22.15 ounces. So Bitcoin buys 40% fewer ounces of gold today than it did 4 years ago.
Gold did better than Bitcoin in the last 4 years.
4 years, a lot better.
How about 8 years?
No, but here, let me finish the point that I'm making. Right, over the last 4 years, think about what's happened in Bitcoin. First of all, we had all of the Bitcoin ETFs that got launched that didn't exist to buy Bitcoin. We got all these companies, copycat from Strategy, but we also have Strategy that borrowed $40 billion to buy Bitcoin or issued stock and debt to buy $40 billion. But we had other crypto companies buying Bitcoin. We had ads at the Super Bowl, we had celebrity endorsements, we had the NFT craze, we had El Salvador, we had the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. We've had all of this money and hype and promotion, unprecedented. That's all anybody talks about. You go on financial news stations, every guest is talking about Bitcoin. Every commercial is Bitcoin or crypto. They're the biggest advertisers. They're the biggest donators to political campaigns.
So you're only talking about one failed exchange.
Right, but the price has gone down during all of this, with all of this promotion, all of this hype. It's gone down. And if Bitcoin has not been able to go up in 4 years, if it's lost 40% of its value in real terms, despite all of this, why would it go up in the future? It seems to me
Bitcoin
that
4 years ago was
it's
much
over.
lower value, though.
Huh?
Bitcoin 4 years ago was much lower value, just because.
No, it's down. It's down 40% in gold.
Comparing to gold.
But if you're saying it's digital gold, then that's the best way to price it.
Well, no. If you compare two assets, you can pick any random time period. One asset.
Well, I'm not random. I'm just picking the high from 4 years ago. But my point is, you had all of this hype. Why isn't Bitcoin? Look, you have Michael Saylor is coming out here. Bitcoin's going to be $10 million of Bitcoin. All right. Well, why isn't it there now? Why? I mean, if it's really that valuable, the market would adjust the price now. You can't just buy it. I mean, he acts like you just buy Bitcoin and you're guaranteed to make all this money. It's a sure thing. Go out, mortgage your house, bet the farm, borrow against your business, put everything you have, because he says it's a sure thing. Well, if it was a sure thing, the price would already be there.
저는 이 이야기는 피터시프의 주장이 별로 설득력이 없다고 생각을 합니다. 왜 꼭 4년 전하고 찍어갖고 비교를 해서 가장 비트코인이 4년 주기로 봤을 때 지금 가격이 굉장히 낮게 평가되어 있을 때를 찍어서 비트코인과 금과의 가격을 지금 피터시프는 비교해서 이야기를 했습니다만 저는 이 주장도 설득력이 없다고 생각을 합니다. 그리고 피터시프는 결정적으로 어떤 주장을 하냐면 디지털 햄버거 이야기를 합니다.
Fundamentally, nothing has changed about Bitcoin. But the point I'm making is
Only the
back then, I remember a lot of stores. There were a lot of stories where all these companies were coming out, oh, we accept Bitcoin, we accept Bitcoin, we accept Bitcoin. And the reason that the stores were doing this is because all of a sudden people with Bitcoin had money, because now the Bitcoin was worth something. And so merchants were trying to appeal to the wealth of the crypto people by saying, hey, you can spend your Bitcoin here, you can spend your Bitcoin here. There's actually less of that now. I mean, I think the whole idea of using Bitcoin as a currency, it's even less popular now than it was back then. And in fact, people have even acknowledged that, it doesn't work very well as a currency. There are other cryptos that are much better. That's when they reinvented it as digital gold, because it didn't work as a digital currency. So they said, okay, well, it's digital gold.
Oh.
Well, it's not digital gold either, because it's nothing like gold, right? It's not, I can't, make a picture of a hamburger and then say I have digital food. It's just an image of a hamburger. And if you eat a diet of digital food, you're going to starve to death.
우리가 금이 있고 디지털 금이 있을 때 디지털 금은 햄버거와 햄버거 사진과 똑같은 것이다. 관계가 똑같다고 비유를 합니다. 그렇다면 우리가 햄버거를 실제로 먹으면 배가 부르지만 햄버거 사진을 봐서는 전혀 배가 부르지 않는 것처럼 비트코인은 금을 사진으로 찍어 놓은 햄버거 사진과 똑같이 아무런 가치가 없고 비트코인을 보유해서는 가치를 저장할 수 없다는 주장을 펼칩니다. 그래서 저는 개인적으로 이 창펑자오하고 피터시프의 논쟁을 보면서 피터시프의 논리가 굉장히 빈약하다. 피터시프가 세상의 변화와 기술의 발전에 대해서 매우 둔감하다. 이런 느낌을 강하게 받았습니다. 피터시프는 처음 토론하기 전에 마이클 세일런 내가 그렇게 한번 붙어보자고 이야기했는데 맨날 도망다니고 꽁무니만 뺐는데 창펑자오 너는 정말 용기가 있어. 나를 이 자리에 불러서 물론 이게 바이낸스 블록체인 위크이기 때문에 너의 홈그라운드라서 너에게 훨씬 이점이 있지만 그래도 나를 불러서 이 자리에서 비트코인 디지털 골드인지에 대해서 토론하려는 너의 용기를 높이 평가해 이렇게 이야기를 합니다. 그리고 마이클 세일러 회장이 피터시프와의 이런 비트코인 디지털 골드냐 여부를 놓고 맞짱 토론을 거부한 것은 마이클 세일러 회장이 피터시프를 논리적으로 제압하거나 설득할 수 있는 그런 능력이라든지 그런 설명할 수 있는 그런 논거라든지 이게 딸려서 안 했다기보다는 피터시프 같은 사람을 상대하고 싶지 않아서였지 않을까 이렇게 생각을 합니다. 자, 끝으로 창펑자오가 어떤 사람인지 여러분들께 간단하게 설명을 드리고 오늘 방송은 마무리하도록 하겠습니다. 창펑자오는 우리나라에서 검색을 하면 자오 창펑으로 검색을 해야지 검색이 되더라고요. 창펑자오로 해도 되지만 한국에서는 자오 창펑으로 주로 읽습니다. 창펑자오, 자오 창펑은 영어로 CZ라고 하는데 CZ니까 이제 창펑자오라고 읽는 게 더 국제적으로는 그렇게 읽는 게 더 보편적인 이름인 것 같습니다. 1977년생이고요. 중국 출신인데 캐나다로 이민을 가서 귀화를 했고 아랍에미리트 국적을 추가로 취득해서 복수 국적자가 됐고 사업은 캐나다를 기반으로 하고 있습니다. 세계 최대 암호화폐 기업인 바이낸스의 창업자이며 초대 CEO를 역임했는데 지금은 바이낸스의 CEO를 다른 사람에게 물려주고 배후에서 바이낸스를 총괄 지휘하는 그런 역할을 하고 있는 것으로 그렇게 알려져 있습니다. 이 창펑자오는 자기가 주최한 바이낸스 블록체인 위크에서 피터시프하고 논쟁을 벌인 데 이어서 아부다비에서 곧이어 열린 비트코인 메나 2025에 가서도 아주 기념비적인 연설을 했는데 창펑자오는 비트코인이 슈퍼사이클에 진입했다면서 자신만의 근거를 여러 가지를 설명을 했습니다. 오늘은 비트코인이 디지털 골드냐를 놓고 펼쳐진 피터시프와 창펑자오의 저는 이 논쟁이 역사적으로 아주 의미가 있는 논쟁이 될 것이라고 생각을 합니다. 그리고 나중에 역사적으로 박제가 돼서 피터시프는 아주 시대에 뒤떨어진 인물로 평가되지 않을까 이렇게 생각을 합니다.